So the purpose of this meeting is to go through all of the issues that we have in our backlog and get them refined, get some weights on them, split them up if we need to. We're trying to make sure, where we can, each issue has a weight of a maximum of 3. If it's got more than 3, we should probably split it up into smaller issues. Oh, hang on 1 second, sorry. There is a child screaming. He's hiding in a box and scaring people as they walk past. Remote work, yay. Okay, so there's some issues I put in there for today. Somebody has put in extra ones, but the majority of them are just on this backlog. There's 2 links at the top of the document that show an issues list and an issues board. So the plan is we're just going to go through them and try and get as many groomed and refined as possible. So I will start by sharing my screen, and while I figure that out, if anyone has any questions, do jump in. Oh, I'll stop that. I'm sharing the wrong screen. Okay, cool. So I've just picked off this first one, truncating issue URLs, which is not this one. It's this one. Oh, right, it was this one.
Hot tip, by the way, in Firefox, if you open a new tab, type in part of what you think the tab's document title that you're looking for and add a % symbol, it reduces the list to only open tabs. So if you think you've got the open tab open somewhere, it's a quick way to jump to that tab, if that makes sense.
Type it where?
Sorry, so press Control-T or Command-T to open a new tab, and then type truncate, % symbol.
Oh.
And that will switch you to the tab it's open on.
That is a hot tip. I like that. I like that. Thank you, Mark. Cool. So this one, truncating vulnerability locations. I think we've looked at this before. It's quite a, oh, Lucas opened it, fairly old one. So Diraj is not on the call, who found this actually. So this is around when we have the location on a vulnerability, so the actual thing in the UI, it comes from different places depending on which scanner it is, and truncating it can be a little weird. So there doesn't appear to be a huge amount on this.
If you scroll to the top in the issue description, there's a DJ admin started a discussion. If you open a new tab for where that discussion is, maybe that discussion contains more information.
Good call. Okay. Line length for containers. Ah, right. Okay. So yeah, this is why it's not just simple truncation. So where it's a file name, instead of truncating the end, which is generally the more important part of the file, working out a way to sort of truncate the middle or something like that.
Okay, so my immediate thought is the MrView, if I'm not mistaken, the tree, the file system tree on an MrView, in an MR, and oh wow, being tired is not good for my English ability. Oh no, it doesn't. But you can see a little bit, yeah.
Kind of does sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes. So in any case, there's some existing code which does approximately something like what we'd want. Mm-hmm. But this sounds to me like we want basically a GitLab UI component which does intelligent ellipsizing.
Yes, that would be sensible. Some sort of you give it a string that has a file name, and it'll take it from there. And then
or you tell it what the type of string it is, like this is a URL, this is a file name path or whatever, and then it does the intelligent thing.
Okay. UI. There's also the other part to this of I don't know if that was what was originally intended for this issue, but you can see we get the actual path from all sorts of different places. So it'll be, a package.json whatever on a dependency scanning one, but on container scanning, it'll most likely tell you the operating system and things like that. I can't remember exactly what it is that for each one of these, but I know it's different and it's generated different for all of them. So it's not always necessarily a file.
True. Well, container scanning is the image path or URL, it looks like. URI rather than URL. And location path is actually a file path. Location file is a file path.
So do we need to worry about that for this, or is that just something that, all we need to worry about is truncating, and we're already getting that data anyway, so we don't really care where it comes from. We just want to truncate it properly.
I'd imagine we could make this quite generic, rather than saying this hypothetical GitLab UI component, rather than saying we have a URL or a path type of string, say, give it information about where it can start and stop ellipsizing, like slashes, for instance, and then an indication of where it can ellipsize, beginning, middle, end, that kind of thing.
And are we dealing with fixed widths here for this content? Like that sidebar that we were looking at for the AMER view, is that a defined number of pixels, or do we want it to be more intelligent?
Almost certainly not. We'd want to do this intelligently. The UI component would probably need to do some DOM inspection and look at the widths and see if the content is going to spill out and respond appropriately and ellipsize appropriately. Doing this in an accessible way might be tricky.
Could we do something like, I'm going to write pseudocode in a comment here, so bear with me. Something like that, where this middle part will be truncatable, but these two bits will never truncate. And then as you respond, it'll kind of truncate just the middle bit. I don't know if that'll work.
Yeah, that's a good point. That could be how the component might work internally.
Rather than, and then you've got all your accessibility stuff there as well, because it's a split string, but it's still a string.
So remind me what the goal is here. We want to the goal here is to put a weight on this issue.
Sorry, yeah, good point. We're not trying to work out how to do it. We're just trying to kind of weight it and work out if it needs splitting into separate issues. Oops.
I think another goal is that there's enough clarity that this can be taken on by anybody on the team, and they're not going to have to circle back with a ton of questions.
Yes, good point. Good point. I guess, yeah, it's to move it out of problem validation and get it into ready for development, right? So do we feel like we have everything we need to move forward with this and give an accurate weight to it?
I think one of the things we don't know is what kinds of truncation do we need and where, as in it's all well and good to talk about it, but actually seeing it in practice in the UI, we might need to make some tweaks. So maybe what this issue is about is making a component that does the dumbest truncation possible, and then we can iterate from there.
Yeah,
and consume it in these places, and then update it and iterate it and improve it.
I'm going to copy Philippe's thing over as well, because that defines it a little better.
Yes, exactly.
Generate UI, boring solution to create the component. Great. Okay, so do that boring solution. Creating it in GitLab itself is probably a 1 or a 2, I would say. But creating it in GitLab UI and migrating it over and doing all that sort of stuff, I would probably say a 3. But I'm open to other suggestions as well.
I was thinking just wait 3. Yeah. Even if you doing this in GitLab itself is, I think that'd be frowned upon. Unfortunately, or fortunately,
Yeah,
depending on who you talk to.
I wasn't suggesting that to be the thing to do. I'm saying if it was that and it was a bit simpler, it would be smaller. But the complexities in adding it to GitLab UI and then waiting and moving it over.
Should we create an issue in GitLab UI and
Yes.
keep this one?
I don't think we should close this one because we'd still need to use that component from GitLab UI, and this issue could track that.
Yeah, for sure. But just keep this issue for the integration part and maybe put a weight of 1 on this one.
Good point. I would call this blocked in that case because then it's relying on that GitLab UI one, which I'll actually, in fact, I'll leave this like this. I won't submit it. Did that work? Okay, it seems to have worked. Right, I'll come back to that. I'll create the GitLab UI issue, and we'll work on that. This is part of that. That's a question actually for you, Neil. If I create a GitLab UI issue, it won't be on this board. Does that go through the same workflow and everything?
So what I've seen from other groups is that there is a preference to associate work to the team that's working on it. There's some amount of alignment. It just helps like design and other people know, okay, the secure group is focusing on this work. So I think it's more than appropriate to add that secure label. And it helps us find it later on, like you're saying. It'll actually reflect in our boards.
But I think what Sam is saying is that because this is a board for GitLab issues, whereas this would be a new issue in the GitLab UI project, which is a separate project.
Yeah, good point.
I don't know if we have a board that covers GitLab org or...
I don't know.
Well, we have group boards, I guess. That should include all the projects.
Maybe that's something we worry about a little later. But yeah, okay. I'll move on from that anyway. The next one, I'll just update that a little later. Right, license compliance and text overlaps. That's this one. 2 months ago, the text displayed in the columns on the license compliance page overlaps. This looks like we could probably do with some truncation. Maybe we kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Is there a link in here to where this is happening? Let's see if we can replicate it. You've worked on license compliance before, Mark. Have you seen this before?
Actually, I've been doing most of the license compliance stuff, but sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Mar. Did you want to say something, or do you want?
I was going to say pretty much what you're saying, so go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So this was just so on the license compliance page. I think this is for, well, yeah, I guess you have a project there. If you could go, there's a security reports project that would have the some data.
Is this the dummy security reports project?
Yeah, it's the one that Lucas last committed to. So because I know there's like two, but either way, like from the screenshots, like it's exactly what we need. If you let's see. Yeah. So if you go, okay. So I believe what happened was in some cases, like one of the scanners for like .NET projects returns a license name. Instead of returning the license name, it returns a URL. The license name, and the way the scanner works now, it's not giving you the name, just a link, a URL. So for now, the fix was to accommodate having a really long license name in the case that it got returned back as a link. And that was essentially what that issue was, to have, I think it was to return back concatenated, like a shortened link with the ellipses and make it linkable, I think was the workaround. So if you have like a really, so yeah, so if you want to edit the, like one of the license names and put something like copy paste something really long, it looks weird. Okay, it might have been in a particular browser, but the issue was that the text wasn't wrapping and it was like overlapping.
I have a feeling it's, I'll delete the whole thing. I have a feeling it's because I put spaces in this and a URL wouldn't have spaces. So.
Yeah, that's probably why. And then Paul had mentioned that there's a component, I think, to accommodate. Yeah, there you go. But I think that would be like a CSS change, right?
I mean, yeah, we could just truncate it in theory, unless anyone could.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, it depends on how long the URL is. Would like if we had it wrap, then it would make the row higher. So that's another thing. Either way, like I guess it's like I was gonna play around with some options, post some screenshots, and then get UX feedback. But like in terms of actually implementing it, I don't think like I was too worried about it.
I think you want the word break rule property.
That's the one.
Word break word. I think it's called break word.
Yeah.
Break,
so like
call,
you do that. I mean, I don't realistically. I guess I look at the data set and see how long the URLs are to get kind of an idea of how large it is. But yeah. So I'll try the CSS method, the component that we have, which may do the same thing behind the scenes anyway. And I believe that component was called, what was it?
It's friendly wrap, I think.
Yeah, GL friendly wrap. And I haven't looked at the code in terms of what that component is underneath, but I have a feeling it does something similar, and it's just standardizing how we do wrapping.
So I feel like this is probably a weight of one, where it's either use GL friendly wrap, use word break, or use CSS ellipsis, if that would work. I don't know, something like that. So it's probably a small one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like the discussions took longer than the implementation would on this one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to weight it as one.
Yeah.
Do we need input from UX to do this, or do we just pick a direction and get them to review it?
I think Kyle had already replied his thoughts on it to make it linkable and truncate. So I may just do that first, and then also just post screenshots of the other options. Because I mean, I'm still going to assign it to Kyle to get UX review. Not that I need feedback to get started. So I would still say a 1 is fine. And I'm adding a comment right now, what we discussed. So it's like either CSS class, truncate, or use GL friendly component.
I've just noticed actually this is already in dev, but it's also in refinement. That's a weird kind of.
Yeah, I don't know. I had marked it in dev like a few days ago as in the next thing in my queue to work on, because like all my other issues are in code review. So like this is, I haven't written any code yet, but I started working on. So I don't know when the refinement label was added. 2 weeks ago. And then I guess I didn't remove it.
Okay. With the weights I'm adding on these, Neil, are we still doing front end weight 1, or are we adding a weight of 1?
Good call out. Yeah, we can just use the weight, the
Okay.
issue level weight. We don't need those labels anymore.
Weight 1.
Yeah, this is my bad. So I think what I missed out on was I didn't mark it from, I guess after planning breakdown, the workflow scheduling, is it? Is what I should have done. Because this was originally in 13.1 and I pulled it into 13.0. I didn't like tell anyone because there was like such like low hanging fruit that I was just like, okay, I could knock it out real quick. So sorry about that process wise.
I mean, I think that's fine. It's just these 2 labels that have been left on it. That's all. Is there any back end refinement needed to be done on this? This seems very much just front end to me.
Yeah, so this was strictly a front end fix because the back end one would have been more involved in a completely different issue. I don't know if there is one. Let's see. No, this is strictly front end fix. I don't know if there is. Yeah, I think there is a. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, Mo created another issue. I'll add the comment right now. I'll actually post it in the chat. So it's unrelated. I mean, it's related, but it's not a block. Like that one. I'll add it in the comment as well.
Cool. Well, for now, I'll put the weight on, take the refinement labels off, and remove backend as well because there's no backend on this, and I'll leave it in dev with you, Fernando.
Okay.
Cool. We have 6 minutes. Let's see if we can get this third one done. MR widget, add notice to add security approvers. Okay. Is that this one? Right. This one is. Okay. This one is one I've been looking at. I don't think we can wait this one right now, to be honest. It was UX ready or whatever the new label is. And 2 people from UX have since jumped on and said, actually, this isn't maybe the best idea. So I put it into blocked. It's blocked until they figure out what they're doing. So unless anyone has any objections, I'm just going to skip straight over that one.
Yeah, I'm okay. I had added this in, but you're right. Even Pedro 4 minutes ago is commenting on it. So yeah, it's in flux. There's another related issue we can jump onto.
There is. That's this one here.
Yeah, this one's a bit more fun anyway.
Well, yeah. So this is what they're discussing at the moment. That's the thing.
Oh.
So this was originally split off from it to be the front end part of it, but they're discussing whether we should even add this feature because where are we? I don't know. I didn't read Pedro's comment.
I think the big concern is that we're displaying a message that isn't actionable by the majority of people.
Yes.
So they're questioning if we can display that, at least the alert, the message, like for only maintainers and owners. But Sam, you think that might apply to that breakdown, that color-coded counts?
No, but that's not what this is. I'm looking at the other one. I'll look at that one. Sorry. 216390. Where's the other one? 2161.
Definitely the one you created.
Aha. Yeah, this is the one I'm looking for. Okay, so this is the other half of it. So adding like red text for critical and orange text for high severities seems simple in theory, but the problem is this isn't actually the message that we currently show. And anyone who's worked on this group text builder knows that it's a complete nightmare. So we should probably just redo it almost completely. I have put down here why the group text builder is such a complete nightmare. Basically, we have 2 reports On a merge quest, we have the branch you're about to merge into, the target branch, and the branch that you're about to merge into that branch. So it would be your feature branch merging into master. There's the two reports on it, one on each branch. If there are vulnerabilities on one but not the other, then they're new vulnerabilities. If the same ones are on both, then there are no new vulnerabilities. If they're on the old one but not the new one, then they're fixed. And then adding the wording around high and critical and dismissed around it complicates it even further. I can't think of a good way of splitting this out other than one to change all the text and then another one to add in the sprintf stuff potentially for changing the colors. You're about to say something there, Mark.
Sorry, yeah. I don't know what our test coverage is like in this area. Do you, at a guess, how confident are you that all of these cases here are covered by our tests?
I got this list from the tests, so
high.
I'm confident the tests cover all of these. I'm not confident that these are all of the edge cases, if that makes sense.
Okay, well, in any case, this is a good use case for something called a pinning test. So we could add like a temporary test sort of harness, which generates some range of values. So a range of values in the head branch, a range of values in the base branch, and then reads out what the current output is. And then we can refactor using that pinning test, which might be a way to go.
I like the idea of it. One small problem with it is that we're actually changing the string.
Right, exactly. So what we could do, well, can you go to the top of the issue again? If I'm not mistaken, the very first thing I thought of when I saw that is that what we want to do is we want to pepper the output string with start and end tags, sort of externalization, sort of interpolation start and end tags like critical start, critical end, high start, high end, medium start, medium end. We want to pepper those into the output strings, and then we can use something like GLS printf to generate the actual markup for it.
I'm nodding. I don't know if you can see my head.
I saw you nodding. And a pinning test would help us sort of iterate adding those, so we can, add in criticals, verify that the pin tests have changed in the expected way at highs, and so on. Again, I'm tired, so hopefully that makes sense to someone else as well.
I've not heard of pinning tests before, to be honest, but I think I get where you're going with it. It sounds sensible. The big complexity in it, really, if I jump into the code and go to, oh, of course. Oh, I'm on the wrong project. Grouped text builder. Okay. Oh, this is the spec for it. Yeah, okay, so this is the group text builder. It is pretty big. I mean, this function here is what we use to generate that string, and that's without, how do I make that smaller? There we go. That's without adding the complexity of pulling out critical and high vulnerabilities. It just says vulnerabilities.
So we don't already split out critical and high.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah,
this
okay,
is the
that
problem.
is a lot more complicated than I thought. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we'd need to totally rethink this. Because if there are no high ones, I'm assuming we don't say 0 high, we just don't say high. And then when you compound that with internationalization, it's weird.
Okay. I think we have a rough understanding of what's involved here, though it's very tricky and, you know, there's a lot of moving parts. The other aspect I'm not too clear on is how does this string actually get rendered? You know, because if we're using one of the other sort of generic report wrappers in the AMER widget, that might not allow us to, we might have to modify that as well, which makes things more complicated. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yes. It does. I don't know if this is exactly what you were saying, but something I've just noticed here, we don't actually pass in to this function whether something was critical or high or whatever. We don't pass the severity in, we just pass in added and whatever. And then this group text builder is relying on this. I mean, this whole thing's just a bit, I'm not fully sure we can do it. I think we can, but it's complicated. So my first thought is, how do we split it? Or do we just push back on it and say, this is really complicated for not a particularly large win?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking it's at least a 5. I mean, it's probably a 5, I suspect. But yeah, is it worth a 5? As in, is it worth investing 5 into this?
Do you feel like this UX request is coming at it from a different angle? I think maybe they're looking at the data and it's showing a number of vulnerabilities and they just want to roll that up with a misunderstanding or don't even appreciate like the complexity of where this data comes from currently. I don't know. Could you go to another MR view? I'm curious, because right now, that high level where we just saw that message is complex, how it's generated, but in terms of expanding the individual sections, that's when we start to see the high, medium, critical qualities.
Let's see, does this have any? Yeah, that's the problem. Oh, actually, I had open earlier one. Sorry, I know we're going a little over here. If we can tie this one up, it'd be great. Security reports, merge bests. Maybe this one. Because I did it all right, okay, never mind. Because we did this over 3 months ago, the security reports have disappeared with the artifacts. Yeah, I don't have a merge request in a state where we can look at something with vulnerabilities on right now, unless anyone has one to hand.
I might, but it's on staging, and I think staging is down at the moment. So yeah. Good. I've lost the.
Yeah, I was looking back through that root issue. I'm wondering if there was a screenshot provided. It's not loading quickly for me, at least.
This root issue here.
Yeah.
Of what it currently shows, yeah. There's not, unfortunately. What I might be able to do. And that's sneaky. Google's adding ads to a competitor in my search of the GitLab handbook.
Paul pasted a really good link in the Zoom chat.
Let's have a look. Yes, this is perfect, Paul. Thank you. Yeah, there we go. So we have new, fixed, and dismissed. 22 new, 6 fixed, and 6 dismissed. And then it's the same for the other ones. I think it actually uses the same function to generate the text, but there's no.
Yeah. So the question is, if we want to introduce a division between critical high, the severities, then we've got severities and new, fixed, dismissed. So what are we showing?
Yes.
How does that break down?
Exactly. So this one here says 2 critical and 1 high severity vulnerability, but I'm assuming they're new vulnerabilities. Does that mean we have to look through all of these, or do we only care about new ones now, or do we say 1 high, 1 critical new vulnerability, 6 critical fixed vulnerabilities, and 10 dismissed vulnerability? Like, it could get pretty wordy if we're adding extra ones in here. I think we should probably just go back to UX and say, this is, in fact, I'm going to take a screenshot of that and add that in. This is the one in here. This one. To show an example of what we currently do. And then I will reword that so it doesn't sound as defeatist. But I'll do that after the call because I'm conscious that we're already 10 minutes over. So we got a little bit done. We can outsource this one to GitLab UI. I'll jump on that straight after this call, get that issue created. That was a weight of 3. License compliance, that was a weight of 1. We got that sorted. And this AMER widget stuff, technically it's a weight of 5, so we've hit our goal of 6, but it's probably not worth doing. But I'll jump back on there to UX and see if that's actually worth it. But I'm going to put a line there so that we know where we're at. Okay, I'm going to stop this recording.